I think we'll go ahead and get started. Um, my name is Hannah Sawyer. I use she, her pronouns. And to give a quick visual description of myself, I'm a white woman with a blonde ponytail. I'm wearing a white sweater and little earrings that are books. Behind me is a gold and white tapestry. I'm the content specialist for the National Paralysis Resource Center, and I'm very excited to be here today. I want to give a quick caveat that I am not a parent. I have a cat who is often like my child, but I have no human children. But I'm really excited to be having this conversation with our amazing panelists today about being a mother while living with paralysis. So to introduce this topic, I want to read a section from an essay called "My Disabled Body Prepared Me for Motherhood Like Nothing Else Could" by Rebecca Taussig. This is an essay in the anthology We've Got This, Essays by Disabled Parents. You can also read this excerpt in Romper, which I believe is going to be linked in our chat. In this essay, Rebecca talks about the experience of carrying her son Otto before his birth and after, and how her paralysis informs her understanding of parenthood. I'm just going to read a few brief sections before we jump into the conversation. Here we go. Culturally, we've inscribed so much meaning into the images of a pregnant belly and a visibly disabled body. The former is shorthand for life in abundance, while the latter is so often reduced to brokenness. And we seem to have very little experience seeing the two entwined. As this baby grew in my paralyzed body, we busted through the tiny boxes allotted to us. It wasn't that I proved my body wasn't damaged, it very much is, but the brokenness and abundance folded into one another. As I splayed my fingers across my belly and felt our baby's lively kicks and rolls the night before he was born, I felt awe at our stubborn, sturdy defiance. So then we fast forward a little bit. Otto's been born. Rebecca is learning to navigate parenting, dealing with various challenges as she learns how she can adaptively parent him. Slowly, oh so slowly, as the days melded into weeks, Otto and I got to know each other. I learned how to read the signs that he needed a nap, and he learned the textures and rhythms of my wheelchair. He started holding his fingers lightly against the tread on my wheels while I rolled him in soothing circles. And eventually, with time and a bit more sleep, I've started to recognize the sound of some familiar notes in this experience of parenting. In this realization, I discovered something jarring. Parenting feels an awful lot like being disabled. How counterintuitive. I've been taught that parenthood and disability were two separate, distinct experiences. And while my pregnancy invited me to play with the imagery, the act of parenting braided into the felt experience of disability in a breathtaking tangle of familiarity. It turns out my disabled body has actually given me the precise training I need to be Otto's mom. With time, parenting has started to feel more and more like hearing a cover of a song I've known by heart since I was a child. Disability and parenting have brought a host of limitations to the way we make and break plans, the venues we can, or more often than not, cannot visit, the way it feels to stare down a long day, especially after a sleepless night, running on empty, canceling plans for a nap, doing extra research before we venture out. All of this was already part of the deal for me. Okay, so I love that section from Rebecca's essay. I think it really beautifully illustrates how disability can inform being a parent. And I am now going to pass this over to the panelists for our webinar, Anna and Jesse.
Hey guys, I'm Anna. I'm a mom to two girls. I have a spinal cord injury due to a GSW when I was 14 months old. My injury is an incomplete injury. And I've been with Reeve since 2017. I started as a peer mentor. And now I work on the NPRC side as an information specialist. So it's a little about me.
Hi, team. I'm Jessie Owen. I am out in Seattle. I'm a white woman with a headband and a colorful array of picture frames behind me. I am a C5 quad with an incomplete injury, so I have some function. I have 1-year-old twins, and I do social media content creation at It's Wheelie Jess. And I also work with a biotech company that's working on stimulation of the spinal cord for a cure.
Okay, thank you so much, Jesse and Anna. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started with our first panel question. Being a mother, excuse me, living with paralysis comes with its own set of challenges. Can both of you discuss some of the barriers you've encountered during pregnancy and as a mother with a disability?
I'll start this off. Right off the top of my head, the first thing that I can think of is just being able to find a doctor that was able to even treat me or wanted to treat me being a mom or being a woman that, had a spinal cord injury. I probably like reached out to over 10 doctors before I found a doctor that was okay with seeing me. And even then, going into that doctor's office, there wasn't a lot of things available and accessible to me. Whereas like the bed that most women get on to be examined, I wasn't able to do that without my husband there because it's set up too high. And even like being able to get weighed still to this day. I go in there and I get my annual exams, and my husband will have to get on the scale first, and then he has to pick me up and they subtract the weight. So that was like a big barrier for me being a woman that was carrying a baby. So that's one of the main barriers that I can think of right off the top of my head. And just being a mom now, a lot of the barriers that I face is being able to go and build buildings with my daughters, and it is wheelchair friendly or accessible to me. I have a daughter that's in dance, and I remember when both my daughters are in dance, but my oldest baby, when she first started at 3 years old, she's 9 now. I remember the first venue that I went in to take her to her dance class. I was so excited about becoming a dance mom. And I wasn't, all the other moms was in the bottom level, but there was no elevator for me to get down there to share this experience with my baby. So I'm still experiencing a lot of those, barriers within like buildings and things like that.
Yeah, I'm going to echo some of the same sentiments here. So, except with the exception is I did have an easier time finding care for my pregnancy. I live in Seattle, a big research area, and maybe it was luck. I won't ever know. But I started working with the maternal and MFM, who pretty much was like, okay, yeah, let's go have a baby. Bodies are amazing and wonderful, and we can figure this out. Um, there were a few stipulations. One is that she really wanted me to make sure I was doing physical therapy um, every week for as long as I could, because your body changes a lot. And if transfers are already like not that fun for you, they're gonna be really not fun for you because of the weight gain and the gravity shift. Um, but it comes on a little bit slow, so you do your physical therapy and keep up with it as long as you can. She said because I had twins were only going to go 38 weeks. That's what she was comfortable with, because after that there's a higher chance of stillbirth in twins, not because of spinal cord injuries or paralysis. But that wasn't a risk that she was comfortable with me having, is going past that. And the third thing was she did give me a choice on delivery. She said that if baby A was head down, I could have the choice of delivering vaginally. And I said, what? Really? And she goes, yeah, it has been done. It can be done. Our bodies have two separate systems that help to push, and that can be an option. You know, we might have to use some tools to get the baby out in the end, like the vacuum or the tongs, but we can do that. For me, baby A was not head down. So that choice was made for me to have a C-section. And I felt okay with that. Recovery was pretty good. Now I'm in the midst of parenting. I personally struggled a lot with picking up my newborn infant twins before they had head control. I don't have a lot of finger strength. And so I dealt personally with a lot of shame and not being able to do that or having to ask for help. I did do some breastfeeding. It was challenging, again, due to a higher level of spinal cord injury, and it was the placement. Babies aren't that good at finding the target. They like need you to shove their head on the target. And, you know, hand strength was not there, but it did happen. Your body can do it. Needs support. And then the third part of parenting that I'm now in the middle of too is figuring out activities and parenting out in public. I had a music class with my kids where there was like a giant step up and there was no way for me to get in. Small doors, figuring out how to hold something and a bag and your baby and open doors. Playgrounds are going to be a challenging one that you'll probably need to think through if you use a wheelchair, because a lot of them have wood chips. And although for older kids, it's probably okay to sit back on the bench, when they're younger, you kind of need, they're really reckless. They like, do every impulsive thought that pops into their head, including like leaping off the top of playground equipment. So you tend to want to be close to support that. And not all playgrounds are wheelchair accessible. So it's a little overview of where we're at.
Anna, do you have anything you'd like to add to that?
Yeah, I do want to add to the fact that a lot like Jessie too, my doctor, the doctor, once I did find her, she was amazing. I didn't know that I was able to push my baby out either until I seen her, because I had automatically thought like, I have to have a C-section in order to deliver my daughter. And she was like, nope, you can push her out just like, any other mother. You would just have to, like the tools that Jessie mentioned that she would have had to use. But a lot like Jessie, again, the decision was made for me because my baby, she started having like her heart rate started going down. So we had to have an emergency C-section, but my water broke on its own. And I had a lot of contractions, and like a lot like Jessie, we both have incomplete injuries. So I felt all the contractions, all the things. So yeah, just wanted to add that little note.
Thank you. So I just want to just make a quick note. I think our ASL interpreter maybe got kicked off. So if the ASL interpreter is here, please raise your hand and I will promote you again so we can have you interpreting. Okay. So our next question, you both have, covered a lot of different barriers and challenges that you navigated as mothers living with paralysis. And I'm really interested to hear why you believe some of these barriers exist. Are there ways that these barriers are specific to moms or women? And perhaps not. But yeah, what are some of the reasons these barriers exist?
Barriers of what, Hannah? Like social barriers or physical barriers?
Sure. So I think, both of you brought up different healthcare barriers that you experience with doctors, both physical barriers in the actual doctor's office versus maybe different attitudinal barriers from people, barriers to do with, Jesse, you brought up not having enough finger strength to um, hold or pick up your twins before they had enough head strength. Was it maybe a lack of information that you felt, lack of community, lack of understanding, lack of accessibility, any of those? Would love to have you both elaborate on your thoughts with that.
Sure. I don't think it's any stretch of the imagination to say that probably most people here would say that society doesn't see disabled folks as parents, and especially disabled folks, disabled women, as biological mothers. No, and maybe even further than biological mothers. Are you going to get accepted for adoption because you have a disability? Are you going to be accepted for surrogacy because people see that you have a disability? There's a huge stigma there, and I think that's probably why resources aren't being pointed at it, because they just don't see it as something important or something valuable or something that these disabled women would be able to contribute to the world. And that's part of our job, to be advocates for ourselves and have a loud voice and a loud platform when we have it, because that's how better things get made. And then there's also the practical barriers of being a disabled woman. And I would say that we are more creative than the average person because we have to navigate a lot of obstacles in our daily life. And now we have to navigate obstacles with a child and with pregnancy without a ton of resources out there. Some, we need more, a lot more information out there.
I would say for me, it was definitely like the resources. 2015 was a while ago, but I would say for me, like when I first found out that I was pregnant, it wasn't a lot of like different moms or things on the internet that I can look to. So it just wasn't a lot of information out there. Again, I didn't find like my support group and my people until like 2017 when I joined a Facebook group that had just started a year prior. So I just think like for me, it was just a lot of resources. There wasn't a lot out there for moms, that have a disability. It just wasn't a lot of that.
I'm going to chime in one more part on an obstacle that is, it's a practical one that when you have limited hand function, and even if you're a lower level quad, when you get into the thick of it with 1-year-olds, child-proof stuff is hard for me to open, but it is important and safe for them to have your house child-proof. But now it's also me-proofed. This place where I used to be as independent as I could be, and where I felt like really secure mom and I could get stuff for my kids. Now we've got child-proof locks on things, and it's just a practical obstacle that we got to come up against, but it is something to think about.
Yeah, and a lot of those things too, now that you brought up the childproof, you have to use both hands. Whereas me, like my left hand is completely, I have full function, but then my right hand, I don't. So it was a lot of things. I'm like, oh crap, how am I going to get this open? Using both hands. And I will say it's really hard if when my husband wasn't around, like with the baby proofing things. But again, you just learn how to like adapt to things and just figure out a way to do it. It's hard. I spent like a lot of nights up and trying to figure out how am I going to get certain things to work, but you learn how to navigate through it.
So I'm really interested in what you both just said about adapting. And Jesse, you brought up the fantastic point, right? That disabled people, um, we're more creative because we've had to be more creative our entire life. And I'm really interested to hear what you both have to say about specific ways you've learned to navigate these challenges, or differences. But before we get to that, I do want to hear what you both have to say about this. So we've discussed that there's a belief that having a disability is a detriment when it comes toward parenting. There's that belief that disabled people can't be effective parents, disabled women can't be effective moms. Are there ways that you found that your disability is actually an asset when it comes to being a mother? And you touched upon this a bit with the creativity. I'm curious if there's anything else that you would say.
For me, definitely. I know this is going to be funny, but we run late to a lot of places. And once my husband gets my chair together, I'll put a kid on my lap and my chair goes really fast. So by the time I get into the door, it's not really like I'm late to anything because I'm getting there really fast. But my chair, has helped a lot. Like the girls could be asleep or sleepy and they'll fall asleep on my lap while I'm holding them. I feel like my chair is really an asset to the things that I, am able to provide for my girls. I've been to the grocery store with them by myself, and both of them are in a basket and I still have my food, but I'm able to push it with my chair. So I think my chair has just been like another tool to help me parent as opposed to it being like an obstacle, as some people may view it. Like it's helped me like become a great mom. It's one of my like main tools that I use, not only to like help me get around, but to just help me parent better.
Yeah, I would agree. Apologize if you saw some chaos back there. Glad we have a nanny today. Um, yeah, so I like going to the front of the line. I don't know if you guys do, but especially with a kid, I am not afraid to advocate for going to the front of the line. I would say that is an advantage. I it is pretty nice to be able to put a kid on your lap. And if especially a toddler, doesn't hurt your back as much when you're carrying them. I just feel so much more creative in my parenting. And quite honestly, I'm gonna say that the biggest advantage is that my kids get to watch me overcome obstacles all the time because I want that for them. They get to see different types of people in this world, and their mom is one of them. She's different, but she's also parenting. She's still mom, and I genuinely think that's probably the biggest gift I can give them. I am so proud to be raising them to have experience with all different types of folks in this world.
That's a really great point, especially with my daughter being in third grade now. She's like so open to so many different people. Like she doesn't exclude people because they look different or they may be in a wheelchair, whereas like and she'll have talks with like some of her friends and let them know like they're still human, they're still people, you don't have to treat them different. And I think that is, like Jesse said, to piggyback off that, is just such a great gift to give them. Because sometimes, especially me, I was injured at such a young age. I grew up, in a world where children weren't nice. So to be raising her to be like a really nice, caring girl because she see how much her mom is able to get around and do things. She treats every kid or all of her peers the same. So that is a great, asset.
And you guys, it's so cute when your kids get old enough to run up to you and they come in between your legs and they step on your feet plates and they hold on your legs and you get a mama. Like able-bodied people and non-wheelchairs don't get that. That's special and adorable to wheelchair parents.
And because they're yours, they don't even realize, not that they don't realize that you're in a wheelchair, but they don't care. They could care less. Like my girls have never said to me, I want a mom that can walk. Like they just want you to show up for them. And I think every child is the same in that aspect. They just want a parent that's going to show up and play with them, you know, honestly. So
Thank you all so much. I think that exactly, Anna, what you said about, children wanting a parent who's just going to show up for them, and that obviously one's ability to show up has nothing to do with, one's disability. So moving in that direction, obviously, as you've both discussed, people with disabilities can be effective parents, and women with disabilities can be very effective moms. Can each of you talk about the ways that you've adapted to the challenges you've encountered? So tips and tricks you found, various communities you've learned from or been a part of, and anything else.
Anna, do you want to talk about our communities first, our groups? And then I'll jump in and say some other stuff.
Sure. So for like communities, one that really worked for me was a Facebook group, and it's called Wheel Mommies, and there's every sort of mom you can, think of with the spinal cord injury. It is just for moms with spinal cord injuries, but it has been such a game changer for me. Because we're all piggybacking off of ideas and sharing milestones with each other. And you just feel like a sense of like security, like a sense of having people that you can relate to, or women that you can relate to. So that was a good one. It's another one, Mom on Wheels. It's Wheel Mommies, and then it's another one, Mom on Wheels. And both of those are really great for moms who are experiencing, being in a wheelchair and having those disabilities. And the Bobby pillow, that was another good one. So I wanted to just talk about the Bobby pillow. A lot of moms use the Bobby pillow. That was a game changer for me while breastfeeding both my daughters, because I was able to rest them on the pillow while I nurse, and the pillow is just shaped like a half donut, and it now they have the kind that has a strap where it just straps behind you and it doesn't easily slide off. But it was a game changer for me with breastfeeding my daughters. So those are some resources that I would use, and some things that helped me adapt in my whole mom journey.
So let me just say that if you are a mom to be, or you're thinking about having kids, or you're already a mom and you're wondering if you can do it, or if they're, the practicality of it, I think we're all here to say that yes, you can. Just because it looks different or you need help does not mean you can't be a mom. We all in our lives, able-bodied people, need help and support. And when you think about the life of a child, the physical aspect of caring for them is such a small window of it. Most of your nurturing and raising your child takes place without the diaper changes, without the clothing changes, without tying shoes. It's showing up for your kids. It's being a parent like that. So you have this whole group behind you believing in you, and you're going to be a good mom. And with that said, let me share with you some of the practical things that I found as a C5 quad helpful. So to pick up a baby, because I have some hand function, there is something called the snuggle bundle. You could probably use a towel. You lay the baby on it, and then you kind of grab it like a little stork, and you can pick it up and transfer it over to your lap. That was practical for me. Right now, for car seats, those buttons are really hard. There's something called an Unbuckle Me car seat release tool. I think it was designed by a grandmother or someone who was creating it for someone with limited hand function. Boppies, huge. For me, I needed 2 boppies. I needed to get them a little bit higher, so stack them on top of each other to get them a little higher. The higher the baby, the closer the snuggles. There is a diaper pail that has a loop on it. It's called the Ubi diaper pail, so you can stick your thumb in there. If you're gonna do formula, there is something called a Baby Brezza. It's just like a Keurig for formula. And all you have to do is put the bottle under there, press the button, and it will create formula. It will dispense the right amount and it will dispense the water. Don't get snap booties for your kids. Get the Velcro ones or elastic. Nail trimming, cutting your kids' nails. They have electric nail trimmers. They're kind of like a grinder, but they keep the tips soft. So you don't get your kids' fingies. There's magnetic baby clothing for just like we have accessible clothing. They have magnetic magnetic snaps. If you're going to be diapering and your fingers look a little bit like mine, they have a diaper cream brush. So instead of getting your fingers all in it, you can put diaper cream on a brush and administer it. They have rolling bassinets with drop down access, if that's what you are looking to do. Baby wear, find anything that's comfortable to you. You might need help putting it on. I always did, but I still felt really connected to my kids when I was baby wearing. Accessible cribs. I created my own. My husband adapted one for me, but they do make accessible cribs that kind of go up so your legs can roll under them, because getting over the top of a standard crib is super challenging. Same for diaper changing stations. You can just get a table. I suspect that's what Anna did. Smart lights will be your friend, you know, if you have Alexa enabled, for any of you that have one of those in your house. Swivel car seats, they make ones that swivel so you don't have to shove your kid up and over. It will pivot and then you spin them back. And then the last thing I can think of that was practical for me was we did some bottle feeding, and I can kind of hold the bottle, but not always. If I was having a bad hand day, they have little grippy handles. We have links to some of these things. We'll be happy to share them, but little grippy handles that help you hold on to it to do that. So those are some practical things that helped me and continue to help me in being a parent to 1-year-old boys.
And I do want to piggyback off of what Jessie said. Baby wearing was a game changer for me. I put my oldest daughter, she was always in a baby carrier with me. It was easier to put her to sleep in a baby carrier to the moment I would put it on, she would immediately just be out of it. And it was easier for me to put her in there when we would go on walks, because I wasn't going to push a stroller, and my chair is, you know, not a stroller, but you know, it's similar to it. So she would just be out of it the moment I put her in a stroller. I mean, in the baby carrier. So that was a game changer for me, the baby carrier. And I was able to do a lot of things like most moms around the house when she was in the baby carrier. So that helped me a lot.
Thank you both. I just want to echo what Jessie said. We do have links for all of the resources that Jessie shared. I'm working on putting them in the chat, but we will also send them out with our follow-up email when we send out the link to the recording of this. And I wanted to follow up on something you said about finding those communities in the Facebook groups and how important that was. And I mean, this is really for both of you. Where and how did you both go about finding these communities and these resources?
So when I initially was looking for resources when I first had got pregnant, I did a Google search and it wasn't a lot out there. I found one mom that had a spinal cord injury and I found her on I found her on Google and she was just like she had a blog of her own, like a website where she was just talking about her experiences as a spinal cord injury mom and just little things and sharing her family basically. But it wasn't a lot of things to like help me, get ready for this journey in my life. But one day, like my daughter was like a year old, she had just turned a year old. I said, let me try to do another search. But instead I did like a Facebook search. And that's when I found so many like wheel mom groups and things like that. And then I had met another woman, she was another African American woman. She had all of her children after her injury, and her injury was similar to mine, a woman who had been, shot as a kid. And so we had a lot of similarities, and she had told me about another group. So I just think like having those word of mouth, and I had met her through the myelomeningocele clinic that I was going to as a kid. Both of us had went there as children, and the nurse practitioner, I had known her my whole life, but she introduced us. So I think having somebody within like the healthcare field that knew both of us and we were able to bounce out ideas off of each other that way. I think a lot of times knowing like healthcare providers and having a relationship with them, I think that helps a lot because they're able to, connect you to different individuals and different resources too, so.
Yeah, I kind of had the same experience. Let's be honest, this is a small, unique community of folks with spinal cord injuries. And maybe not all of you have a spinal cord injury, but I would say, I think a much smaller percentage of them are women. And then within the women that choose to have children, it's even smaller. So you kind of have to dig. I did find some resources on um, the Reeve Foundation. And then I did find some on Facebook as well. What really helped was finding one person that was kind of in that group that helped me connect. So I actually found Anna last year, and she helped me get even more connected because she's already in. I assure you, if you can find one of us, we will help you get plugged in. We're rooting for you. We want this for you. We're going to be part of your team. So look for us on Facebook, on the Reeve Foundation, anywhere, and we'll point you in the right directions.
Like Jesse said, if you can find one of us, everybody is like, we're like a sisterhood of, individuals. We just want to help each other because we know how hard it is to not have, those resources. So if you could just find one woman living with paralysis that uses a wheelchair, I think that's more than enough, so.
All right, thank you all so much. We're gonna reserve 5 or so minutes at the end for our peer researchers from the Lurie Institute to talk about a study they're doing related to mothers living with paralysis or living with disability. Before we do that, though, I do want to take some time to answer some of the wonderful questions that we've had from our chat. So there are a lot. So I'm just gonna do my best. We're gonna start with this one from Sonia. She says, like Anna, I was injured by GSW as a toddler. I found it difficult to attend birthday parties, etc. when my daughter was young due to accessibility issues. Did either of you ever broach the topic with parents who sent invites to inaccessible venues?
I'm very transparent, so I'm gonna say most of my friends and things like that, they already know if a venue is not accessible, don't even call my phone or invite me. I'm just gonna be honest because there's no way for me to, actually participate or for my children to participate if things aren't accessible to me. I had a friend recently, she had a baby shower and it was a rooftop venue. She still invited me, but there's no way I can get to a venue if it's a rooftop with no elevator, you know? But I have had conversations with, friends and things like that about how important it is to have a venue that's accessible to me. I've been to venues that were accessible, like with no steps and things like that. But then the bathroom wasn't accessible. So I just think if you do have like those important conversations like early on with your friends and your support system, I think like it'll put a lot into perspective for them. Because for me, I found that a lot of people don't realize how important like some of these things are to us unless we have those hard conversations. So that's just my little input.
Yeah, I think that's spot on. Because we live with a disability, we are required to have those harder conversations. And so my kids are littler. We don't do school birthday parties yet. We did go to one this weekend, and it was at a farm. It was pretty inaccessible. I knew it was going to be, so I brought the kid's grandmother, and my husband went because we needed two hands for it, because I was not helpful. In my brain, I have a plan. I'll tell you my plan. We all know how plans go in real life, but when the kids are in school age, I'll go in, we'll talk about what it looks like to have a disabled parent, to what types of things you need to think about when you're asking us to go places. It hurts our feelings when you want to say, oh, let's go somewhere, but you didn't think about us. You didn't think that it has 10 steps. The other part of our parenting that I think is going to take a different track than a lot of other parents, it tends to be kind of trendy or societally normal to be a little bit of a helicopter parent right now, to really watch over your kids. I don't think we get the same luxury as parents unless we're going to keep them inside our house all the time. So building a village. So let's say my kids get invited to a birthday party that has steps and they really want to go. Maybe their dad's busy. I'm hoping that by that time, they have grandparents or aunties or bonus neighbors that I trust and we feel good about and that are going to be part of our village, that can step up and take them to some of those things. There will probably be conversations had that, we can't do this time. But my job as a parent is to help build that village. This is so hard to do alone, you guys. This is so hard to do alone. So whatever your village looks like, my parents have passed. That's not an option for me. My husband's parents live in Taiwan. We're making a village, and we spend a lot of time trying to do that. And I would encourage you to as well, because parenting without a disability is hard. Parenting with a disability is hard. So rewarding, you can do it. We do hard things all the time, but we're gonna create a big net for us.
Thank you both. We have a question, says, being a mom is hard. Being a disabled mom could be even harder. Do you ever find yourselves going that extra mile to prove those who may doubt your abilities?
Oh, absolutely. I have. I find myself, not now, I've gotten a lot better at it, but like trying to overcompensate to show people that I can do certain things for my children. I battle with that a lot. When my oldest was a lot younger, just trying to overcompensate. So yeah, I mean, and I feel like that's just in general with moms. And I've had these talks with friends in general about just overcompensating to just show people that you can do certain things. And it is an insecurity, but you just have to, work at it. I talked to a therapist and talked to other moms, and I'm doing a lot better with like feeling like I have to go the extra mile to prove that I can do certain things for my children. Now I just let my actions speak for themselves, and if I can't, I can't, and I'll ask for help. But yeah, I've definitely struggled with that.
Same. The amount of times I've gone out of my way to be like, no, they are my children. Is like probably in the hundreds. Working on it, the more you get into motherhood, the more comfortable you get with yourself. But I used to yank that baby out of the stroller and put him in my lap when we were out because I wanted people to know that they were mine and I can also be a mom. And, just because my husband's pushing the stroller doesn't mean that, he does all the work. I do too. Nothing will probably bother you as much as people going up and being like, oh, isn't your husband so great for taking care of all of you? You would do a lot.
That drives me crazy, Jesse.
Yeah.
It's like they think he's Moses and he part the Red Sea. Like, I'm a catch too, So it's
Yeah.
crazy.
Calm down. Be proud of me. I'm the mom. So
Yes.
So I think we have time for one more question before we transition to our peer researchers. And if we have time for more than one more, then we'll do more than one more. But this comes from Emily Garfinkel. I'm a psychologist working with the SCI rehab population. If you feel comfortable sharing about your mental health during pregnancy and after, I'm very interested in how your injury might have impacted this negatively, neutrally, or positively. Given a lot of barriers, social attitudes, and stigma, lack of resources, etc., all of which can negatively impact our mental health. Did you experience peripartum or postpartum depression or anxiety? And if so, were you able to find appropriate treatment?
yeah, sure. I'll start with that. I would say most of my anxiety was in pregnancy. I think as disabled folks, we pre-plan a lot. You're going on an airplane. Okay, let's get our wheelchair tagged. Let's get our clothes picked out. Let's make sure we have proper catheters or whatever urinary equipment. What clothes am I going to wear? Now pretend like you're preparing for a baby. I was not only concerned about how to do things, the other thing too is you don't know what you don't know. You don't know what things your baby is going to like. You don't actually know how you're going to hold it or how everything's going to shake out. You can only prepare so much. I was also really concerned about my marriage. We have a strong marriage. I was concerned that I was going to be a burden, that my husband was going to be doing all of the work, that I was going to feel like a failure day after day after day because I was going to watch him do it. I worked with a therapist while I was pregnant. We came up with a game plan, and like I married a super supportive guy that wanted to not only be a dad, but he wanted to be my husband. And so he would bring me the baby, right? Even if it was hard, even if I was trying to figure things out, he would bring me the baby so that rather than just doing everything himself. And that helped a lot. But there was a lot of anxiety around that. I was so worried I was going to feel like a failure as a mother by watching everyone else care for my baby but me. Turns out I was able to do it. I was able to do as much as I could, and I felt really good about it. I think I had normal postpartum depression, baby blues kind of came and went for me. I don't think that they were specific to my disability in that moment.
Yeah, same here. With my oldest, I experienced postpartum, but it wasn't as it related to my disability. And mine was a bit different. Like she was the first, granddaughter on my husband's side. So a lot of family, and on my side. And a lot of family wanted to hold her and see her, and I didn't want to share her. So I went through that part of like seeing others pass my baby around. I had a lot of postpartum depression with that. I just didn't want to let her out of my sight. And I also, well, now that I think about it, it's crazy saying this out loud. I was injured at 14 months old. My injury happened when I was just a baby. So because of that, I became extremely protective of my daughters. I didn't want to let them out of my sight. I didn't let other people watch them. I didn't let them around other people without me being there. So yeah, I guess that did, contribute to my mental health as, a mom. and having babies and being someone who was injured, you know, so early on, so.
Okay, thank you all so much. We did have a question. We're not going to be able to get to all the questions, but I am going to copy them down and share them with our panelists afterward and see if, you know, potentially we can answer a few more. I'm not 100% sure. But we did have someone ask for your social media handles. Jesse, would you mind giving those again? And Anna, if you have any you would like to share.
Yeah, we can write it in the chat too. It's at Wheelie what is my handle? It's ITS Wheelie WHEELY Jess JESS. So you can find me on TikTok and you can find me on Instagram there. And then if you want to find me on Facebook, which for whatever reason I have a much bigger following, it's actually Jessie.Owen, JESSIE.OWEN. And you'll be able to find me there. And I post some parenting content. There's some stuff with my crib and the baby Brezza for when we did formula. So
Wonderful. Thank you both so much. This has been fantastic. I really, really appreciate it. We're going to transition to hearing from two peer researchers, Jennifer Senda and Maria Palacios. Jennifer and Maria are from the Lurie Institute, and they are here to share with everybody about a study on motherhood and pregnancy for women of color with disabilities. And I'm going to pass it over to them, and I'm going to share the slide.
Thank you. Thank you so, so much. Hello, everybody. I am just overwhelmed with amazing love for this space. Thank you, Christopher Reeve Foundation, for making this possible. As a disabled mom and as a disabled woman, I kept looking for the little heart and like button that we usually have the ability to say, yes, 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 I love, I agree. And I didn't have that. So I was like jumping here, snapping my fingers as I kept hearing this amazing collaborations of Anna and Jesse. So thank you. Again, my name is Maria Palacios. I am a disability activist, artist, mother, and a peer researcher with the Lurie Institute. And we are working on a research project, which is funded by the National Institutes of Health. And it is having to do with learning about the experiences having to do with pregnancy and disability at the intersection of race. And I think that one of the reasons why this particular study is so very important is because, as we know, the experiences of Black and Latina women around this intersection, it's very little that we know about. The conversation is new and it is so needed. So through this study, we hope to learn more about experiences that otherwise we would not have a chance to know about. Race and disability and pregnancy, as we have already heard in this panel, there is so much conversation that is needed around this subject. So through the study, we are hoping to bridge that gap and learn more about this particular population. And you know what, I almost forgot, I apologize, that at the beginning with my excitement of wanting to give kudos to you all, I forgot to name my pronouncer, she, her, and a quick visual description of myself. I am an indigenous light-skinned woman. I am sitting on my bed with a background of a brown wooden bed frame, and I am wearing a blue top and a denim hat. And with that, I would like to pass on the space to Jenny so that Jenny can further elaborate on areas of the study. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Senda, also known as Jenny. My pronouns are she, her. I also work with Maria as a peer researcher with the Lurie Institute and the National Institutes of Health. I want to say that any woman that is Black, that identifies as Black or Latina, can participate in this study. It is completely voluntary, but we are still looking for participants. And I think it's great because information is power. As we learned today, you know, a lot of the things, my son is 14. So, you know, going back and listening to your stories were great because, I mean, I love the Boppy. Who doesn't love the Boppy? The Boppy was great. But, you know, this is, like I said, information is power. And the more we know, the more we can change and the more we can improve. So on the slide, you know, we have the slide with all the information. There is a QR code. And like I said, it's completely voluntary, but if you would like to share it on your socials, it would be greatly appreciated. Thank you. Oh, and my pronoun, I am for my, for accessible reasons, my pronouns are again, she, her, and I am a Latina woman, light-skinned indigenous as well with glasses and a beige, dark haired with a beige top.
Thank you both so much. And this is another slide and information that we can send out with the follow-up email as soon as we have the recording. And we will also send out those links of all the resources. But yes, we would love people to help share this. Okay, I'm going to stop the share of this. And again, I just want to thank everybody for being here. Anna and Jesse, thank you so much for your insight, your wisdom, your words. Thank you, Jenny and Maria, for sharing about this really important study. Huge thank you to our ASL interpreter as well, and for our information specialist, Donna, who's working behind the scenes to make sure that the resources and information get to all of you. After the presentation, after the webinar ends, your screen will populate with a survey. Please take the time to fill out that survey so that the National Paralysis Resource Center can continue bringing educational content like this for you. Okay, thank you, everybody. Have a great rest of your day. Take care.